And today is the 20th of November, and the time is 2:40 in the afternoon. Okay. So you were mentioning, you were talking about the early businesses that were still here and the Conoco station. There was a Conoco station 1 and 2, right?
I don't remember if there was 1 and 2, but
Okay.
there was one on the corner over here.
Okay.
Then on this corner of 88, there was a brick house there, and it was a residence.
Okay.
Grandview Market, I don't remember that one, but I can't remember his name now.
Now, you were a very active member with the Thornton Merchants Association.
I was president of the Merchants Association for about, I guess 5 years, I think it was.
Okay. Were a lot of the members of the Thornton Merchants Association kind of like the founding fathers of the community, or were they very active in service organizations like?
Well, all of the merchants belonged to the Merchants Association.
Okay.
We assessed them dues. I forget so much a square foot.
Oh, wow.
So we had Woolworths over there, and we had Lone Breaks Toggery there. We had the cleaners right next to my store. We had Sam Paris there, the drugstore.
Right.
Howells later came in there where the post office is now.
Now, Sam Paris, was that the Thornton Pharmacy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's ironic that he was a sergeant down at Western Technical Training down in Denver, and my wife was also secretary in the same office. Mm-hmm. And they didn't meet until after I got in the store here. We got to talking one day, and here Sam was working in the same supply room up there as my wife was working up in the secretary's job. Jack Norman guitar, Jack Skinner, Jackie's.
Do you remember
Burger Haven, Jim, he's still around here.
Right. He's on.
In fact, he's got
88.
two places now. He's got this place over here on Pearl, and he's got another place. He's doing real well. Mm-hmm. He's well thought of.
Do you remember the Foreman Studio? I think it was in the
Tom.
Tom Foreman.
Yeah, I saw him not too long ago over at I think he was over at the bank. A couple of months ago, I saw him over at the bank. And he stayed in there quite a while after they closed the Miller stores. I left there in '74, and they closed the store in '75. And Tom, he stayed on there, I think, around until 1980 with his photography studio over there. And then the cleaners, they stayed there for quite a while. And then Sam closed up his pharmacy. I guess he must have closed his pharmacy up about 2 to 3 years after Miller's closed out, or Del Farm. Mm-hmm. And then they had Don Chancho's restaurant over there and his bar. He and his dad Joe were in there for, Don's still over there. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I don't know if this should be on tape or not.
Would you like me to pause it? Okay.
We were.
Hang on just a second here. Let me find that button.
Shoes, I remember them. John's. Burritos, that's Greg Muniz. Have you contacted him? He's been around here a long time.
Yeah, we've got some information on them.
I think his wife is still she's in a bad way with arthritis, real bad. Meat Block was also in Northwestern. I see you don't have an address. It's down here. Oh, yeah, Miller Supermarket.
There you are.
1956, yeah. Monterey Auto. Mr. C's on.
Don Chancho.
In those days, they called it, I think, maybe it was
Don.
Mr. C.
No, I think it was Chancho's.
Swiss of Thornton,
Yeah.
North Valley Inco. North Valley Inco, I think they put that in there where they tore out that residence, that big brick residence was right in the corner there.
Okay.
North Valley Liquors. I think that's over where they still are. North Valley State Bank. North Valley State Bank was over here in the strip store over there. That's where they started. Orange Julius. Jim Palermo's. Pizza Roma. It's still down there, I think.
Yeah, we have a wonderful photograph of Pizza Roma, and 60s with all of the cars in the
Yeah.
parked along the street. Yeah, it's pretty good.
PJ's.
It's still there, yeah.
Yeah. Princeton Dairy, they're still down. I don't think they're doing any business anymore. They're down there by Ledbeck's
Okay.
on York. Readers, Road Express. Rudy's Barber Shop. I just talking to his brother this morning. Rudy's retired. Now Safeway, you don't have a date.
Oh,
See,
okay.
Safeway didn't come in here until later.
Yeah, it was when, in about the
Around about
70s.
65, 66, while I'm in there.
Yeah, some of these businesses, I'm sure, is mid to late 60s, some
Yep.
70s, yeah.
Snow White Cleaning, I remember him.
Do you know who ran that one?
I'm trying to think of his name. He was a Jewish guy, hell of a nice guy. But he went down to, I think Silver State down in Denver, closed his shop out here. I don't remember Spotlight Theater. Swedes, remember that? Stevens Radio, Sun Honda was over here on this side.
Mhm.
Thornton Barber Shop.
Now, that's Sam Schwab. He's still,
He's in there now, but
Yeah.
the one that was in there back in 1957 was, his name was Sam Eaton.
Sam Eaton. Okay.
And in fact, Rudy's Barber Shop here. Rudy was also one of the barbers over there with Sam. And Sam, they had 3 chairs in there. And we had the LN, his name was Fox. All the kids liked him. He was a good barber. He got along good with the kids. My son used to go up there and get his hair cut. Thornton Coke and Bottle, that was
Is that
Mike Dichter.
Mike Dichter, okay.
Mike Dichter is the brother of Claire Baruch. Claire was on all the other tapes that they took pictures of.
Right.
Thornton Electric, Thornton Hardware, that was Mo Turetsky.
Mhm.
And he died, and his brother-in-law has a place now, Stan, he's on these tapes too, Stan Solons, I think's his last name.
Okay.
Thornton Nursery, Thornton Pharmacy, now that was San Paris. Thornton Sewing and Vacuum was right next to Ken Bruger here, D&B Shopping Center. Thornton Thriftway was across the street from me, from the back of my store. That's 1960s.
Okay.
True Value, I guess they replaced Thornton Hardware, same place. Village Bakery, they didn't stay on too long. White Stores was in there where DAV is now. That was White Stores. Woolworths, Leroy Kelly. I think he's still kicking around up at the Red Feather. Right Accounting, I remember that's on this side of the street here. American Legion was pretty active. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, DAB. Kiwanis was pretty active in 56 through early 60s, I think.
Do you know any individuals that were still around who were members of Kiwanis?
One is Alex Reuter. He lives out in Brookfield. He's a good friend of ours.
Okay, and that's our,
Reuter.
okay.
And let's see, several of their members have died. I think they're only down to about 7 or 8 people now.
There's a gentleman, his wife recommended him. I sent him a letter, but he's not responded. His name is Tom Guggen. He lived,
Guggen or
uh-huh,
Dugan?
Guggen.
Guggen?
Uh-huh. He lived on Gale Court. Now, Evelyn, his ex-wife, still lives there. He lives
Sounds
in-
familiar, but
yeah.
it's been a long time since I've heard some of these names.
Supposedly he's still in Kiwanis, but he lives in Arvada now. And he's been-
I could find out from Alex.
Okay. That would be great.
I think Alex has kind of disassociated himself with Kiwanis now. In fact, I took him to the Lions Club meeting not too long ago. He's expressed an interest in the club.
Okay.
Our Lions Club, we chartered that in 1956.
And we found the Boy Scout Troop 292 is no longer an active troop, but there is a Cub Scout Troop 291 that's it's 39 and a half years old. And it's headed by a lady. We've got to call into her, but we're trying to just locate.
name?
I've got that on my desk. I can go get that for you if you
No.
like. Okay. Heidelman, it's something like that.
I know Mrs. Kettleman, but she wouldn't be interested in that, I don't think. She's getting too old.
And Explorer Scouts too.
Have you checked the Old Cross Church down there?
Not yet. No, I haven't.
They had a troop for a long time.
Okay. I've been to Mountain View Lutheran, and I've talked to the current pastor, Craig Loving, and he gave me the address of Joel Swiggum, Reverend Joel Swiggum. And I'm trying to get in touch with him. I do have a phone number, and I kind of hesitate to call until I sent a letter, so.
Yeah, Reverend Swiggum, he come up and got enough money out of me to buy a pew for the church when they opened the church.
Well, it's probably a pew that's still there, too.
Well, I paid $92 for it.
Yeah, it went there, and they've got their original fixtures, so whatever he got you to buy,
How about
it's
that?
lasted 40 years.
$92 then was a week's pay for me. I was the manager of the store.
Well, he was a real arm twister then. He could talk anybody into anything.
Well, he and I
That's
got
good.
along pretty well. In fact, I went to the church for quite a while.
Yeah.
Optimus Club, I think that they are still active.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure whether that's the one that meets up at the city hall
Okay.
or that's Toastmasters, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Toastmasters meets here.
Thornton Merchants Association.
Mhm.
I was president of the Merchants Association for 5 years. And then I went from this store out to Hoffman Heights in Aurora for, I think, about 10 or 11 months, and I came back to this store. And I don't remember what happened to the organization. The Merchants Association, we took up dues, and everybody paid dues. We used that for advertising costs and stuff like that. And Sam Hoffman, after we opened the store, he didn't have much to do with the shopping center.
Mhm.
Saul Dichter, who was Mike Dichter's brother, I think they sold the place, the whole shopping center. And I don't remember, the only one I remember is Harry Dean, and he was a millionaire from New York and owned a couple of textile mills back in New York. And he's about the only one I remember, but they had several owners of the Thornton Shopping Center. But you can tell now it hasn't been maintained. They haven't blacktopped the parking lot, any of that stuff.
I like that shopping center. I would like to see it preserved because I think that, I may be the only person here who wants to, but I think when you step into it, it's like stepping into that era which is rapidly becoming lost to us.
Oh, yes.
And we need to preserve it, the aspect of the 50s and 60s in this community since that was its beginnings. And I love going down there. There's not a lot there anymore, but it's a feeling I get when I go down and I stop by, see Don, or I go over to the barbers, and I think it's a neat place.
They have 13, I think it's 13 little shops in my old store. My store was 37,500 square feet.
It's big.
And I think Woolworths, they made it into a theater, or 2 theaters, sometime after they closed. It was vacant for a long time. And then Hancock's Fabrics came in there in place of the drugstore. And I left there in '74, in June of '74, and then they closed the store in May of the next year. And that sort of killed the whole center over there. And then the bank, they built this place right across the street down here, across from D&B, where D&B was. And then they built a new bank building on the corner of Russell and North Washington.
What do you remember about Sam Hoffman? I know that he had his share of trouble.
Well, Sam Hoffman he was a go-getter, and before he came over here, he had developed Hoffman Heights over in Aurora, and he came over here and he got some land, and my understanding was when he bought this land here, it was $300 an acre. But the thing I remember most about Sam was when they built the store and they were finished with it, and we were about ready to stock it, why he and his wife came in and looked around. His wife went back to the back of the store, and then Sam walked up to her and she said, "Sam, why in the world would you build a building like this?" And she had never seen one that big. And I remember that. And then it sort of had a tragic ending later on, but they had a good moving force out here, I'll say, to sell houses. They got to the point where they were finishing up a house a day. They had so many people working out here. And in fact, one Sunday morning they called me up after I'd opened the store. They called me up and wanted to know if I'd come up and talk on the radio for them. I said, well, I suppose. So he came up, and it's right over here right off Emerson there, their show house. And they had one of the radio stations was out here, and they were advertising Hoffman Homes out here in Thornton, and they asked me if I'd come in and say a few good words for them, and I did. They gave me a script, and so I was even selling houses.
Oh, that's great. Did you come to the opening when Jane Russell was there? The
No,
opening
we
of
were.
Hoffman Homes?
Well, no, we weren't there at the very opening. At that time, we lived in Lafayette, and they were advertising quite a bit, and I think there was some animosity between Sam Hoffman and the Denver Post and the Rocky Mountain News, because he wouldn't advertise with them or the way they wanted them to.
I see.
And so most of it was on the radio, and then one Sunday my wife called up friends of ours, said, let's go down and take a look down to Thornton and see what they're going to have down there. So we drove down here, and I told my wife, I said, no, I wouldn't want to buy a house down here in this jackrabbit patch. And so about 3 weeks later, we bought one. I think we paid, I think it was $99 down, and our payments were $67 a month.
That's about right.
And my father-in-law says, how in the world are you going to pay for $67 a month? He was Italian. How are you going to pay $67 a month on a house? And in those days, I was the manager of the store, but my pay was $92 a week.
Yeah, that was a lot of money,
It was
67.
pretty good then.
I heard a lot of people had trouble making those mortgage payments, and that Evelyn Buchan mentioned that people would just kind of like, they'd be here one day and they must have moved out in the middle of the night because the next day they were gone. That for a while Thornton was a very transient community.
I could have bought, I probably could have bought 100 homes out here for less than $100 down. People couldn't make it, and I know that one gentleman I know fairly well, he bought 10 houses out here. He lived up where Northland is now. He bought 10 houses there, and they thought he was nuts. But you could rent them, and I had people come into my store, particularly one Saturday morning, and this gentleman, he handed me the keys. He says, here's the keys to my house. He said, I'm leaving. We can't make it. I said, well, I'm sorry, I can't do much about your keys. In those days, people used to line up. We used to have 20 or 30 people in line there to cash checks. And I used to catch a whole bunch of paychecks there on Friday nights and all day Saturdays. And so that's where I got acquainted with a lot of these people. But there's any number of people that just walked away from their houses out there. That's true. They did. But things slowly evolved into a city here. I remember when the fire truck was repossessed out here one Friday night, and somebody out here, we had some do-gooders out here that they thought they were doing the right thing, and this fella had leased a fire truck, hoses, and the fire equipment for the city of Thornton, although we didn't have a city then. But his name was Mr. Bell, and he came out one Friday night, and he wanted his money for the lease. No one had any money, so he says he's taking his truck, his equipment, and taking off. So we didn't have any fire protection there for, I guess probably 36 hours. I was president of the Emergency Association. I called my boss and told him what happened. He says, well, I'm sending out $250 to you tomorrow morning. You go around and check your emergency association and the people around there, see if you can pick up some money. So I did that. Picked up $1,385 and had a volunteer out there by the name of Carl Nelson and Van Sutterback. And I told them how much money we had, and they got together with some people, and they went and bought an old French truck, and we had a fire truck, and they bought some used hose and stuff, and that was our fire department. And our fire department was all volunteer. And little things like that happen.
Yeah, it sounds like volunteerism really permeated the community. I understand the first police force was also volunteer for a while. There was a phrase that I came across in an old paper that was Thornton was born in exasperation, or conceived in exasperation and born in death.
Yeah, that's probably right. But the people out here are real. We had a real good bunch of people out here, and I think that if we hadn't had such a, like you say, volunteerism out here, and I was on committees out here. I was on the water board for quite a lot of years. We never got paid for any of that stuff. We all worked together, and we bought the waterworks here, and we've got people here who were up to their neck in debt. New refrigerator, a new house, new car, and we did. You were right. We had a lot of people here who were up to their neck in debt, and they didn't have a lot of choice. And that's how we got this thing going here. We had Mayor Bill Leary and a good city attorney, Earl Daniel, and we worked things out pretty well here. In the Lions Club, we chartered that in 1956. This fellow came in the store one day, and he says, Wes Brown, he says, I understand you're a Lion. I said, yes, sir, I am. He said, my name is Matt Matthews, and glad to know you. And I said, I belong to the Lions Club out to Lafayette. We don't have a club here yet. Well, he says, we're going to have one here. So we ended up, we chartered 61 members out here.
Wow.
And I'm the only one left.
Of the original members.
So,
That is amazing. What kinds of things did the Lions Club do in the, I mean, what was their level of civic action?
well, the first, I guess the first big activity of the Thornton Lions Club was running a concession stand down at the Women's Club building. The Women's Club, which my wife was a member down there also, she's a past president. They had a bunch of very active women, and they got together and they built this Women's Club building down there by the swimming pool. And they left a room in there for a concessions stand for the area down there. And we were asked, the Lions Club was asked if we would run the place, and we did. We had a concession stand there for years and years, and it was manned by volunteers from the Lions Club. And up until about 8 or 9 or 10 years ago, why the volunteers were all Lions Club members running that stand down there. And that money we have used for eye examinations for kids, needy kids at the schools and needy adults. And if the exam showed that they needed glasses, and we bought them glasses for them. And we have been active in the parades here. I was the first Grand Marshal they had in the first parade. And in fact, Mayor Bill Leary gave me a little plaque. I still got it at home. In recognition of the fact that I was the first Grand Marshal out here, they gave me, somebody got a red Pontiac Firebird.
Wow.
And I and my family, we sat up on the back of this convertible and waved at everybody, and that was really something. Went down the hill, down the North Valley, and that was it. But The Thornton Lions Club has been pretty active in the community here. We furnish Thanksgiving baskets. This year we're going to have 5, and we're going to give them a complete dinner and everything to go with it. And I forget how many, I think it's 15 to 16 children out of the 5 families. We have furnished scholarships, $500 for what we started out with. Really, one high school, I believe it was, to Maitland High School. And now we give 4 scholarships in the area here to students want to go to college. This year we gave 4 scholarships and $500 each. And we've been pretty active. We used to have pancake breakfasts over in the Thornton Shopping Center parking lot, 7 to 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, or maybe a Sunday morning, and we'd raise funds that way.
A lot of people showed up for that.
The local
Yeah.
people, local people. And we had a lot of cooperation. People took an active part in our local activities.
Has it changed? Do you feel like that has really changed nowadays, that maybe the community isn't as involved in the service organizations and the things that they're doing?
Yeah, I would say it has. The younger people, where the man and the husband and the wife, most of them have to work, and a lot of them don't have the time to get into activities like they used to. Excuse me, our Lions Club, got a lot of gray hairs down there, and we need to get younger people in there, but it's hard to find people who are interested.
Do you remember a certain Hungarian family that was moved to Thornton, brought to Thornton by, I think the Kiwanis group, the Kiwanis organization brought them here, arranged for their transportation. His name was Laszlo Zani, and he and his wife Maria were brought here. Now the Lions Club has gone on record in the papers being involved in that. It didn't say specifically how you were involved, though.
What was his last name?
Zani. Zanyi or Zani.
I remember that name.
Uh-huh.
Well, I get confused with that name and the coach of this, I think he's up in Northland now, Northland soccer team. And he came over here from Hungary or from someplace over there.
Right.
The one you're speaking of.
Right, and supposedly he came here in 56, and he had 2 children, and his wife Maria, and Kiwanis, they bought him a home, and the Thornton Women's Club furnished the house with like draperies and clothing, and the VFW bought them a wringer washer. And the Thornton Pharmacy provided, I think this was Sam Harris, provided the radio, and he remembered that radio. He's still alive, but it's interesting is he said it was really an opportunity. I mean, to come to another country and to start over, and well, he doesn't really remember. He didn't know who Mayor Oyer Leary was, who was making this presentation.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still to this very day thankful for that new chance. But do you remember anything about what Lions did for them?
No, I sure don't on that one. That goes quite a ways back.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of foreign exchange students out in this area. But as to any specific ones, I don't remember on that. We've had, I and my wife, we went to an international convention in Hawaii, and we had another member of our Lions Club, and I think his wife, they went to Australia to international Lions down there. And this next year, I and my wife, and I think one other one, we're going to Montreal to, but so many of our records have been lost. And no, I've been president of the Thornton Lions Club 4 times since '56. Mm-hmm. And I transferred down here from Lafayette as a charter member. And I'm the only charter member left now. Getting up in age, getting close to middle age.
Oh, I love it. It sounds like, in terms of when the Lions Club was chartered, was there any statement or I want to say, Did they dedicate themselves to a particular goal for Thornton, for the community? Was there anything different about this organization from the one in Lafayette?
Well, the main focus of Lions International, we are an international organization all around the world. And the main focus of Lions, is prevention of blindness, and to work with people with eye problems and eye banks we have. Currently we are in a campaign to raise $8 million for a new Rocky Mountain Lions Eye Institute down in Denver, which will be down in the area of the University and Hospital, where they will have an eye bank, corneal transplants, and things like that. And that will cover the whole Rocky Mountain area, New Mexico and Wyoming and Colorado. The Lions of this area will support that, and which is quite a very good thing, because there are so many problems with eyes, and so many people now that wear glasses where they never used to. We had 3 in one family here last week. 3 of them, we paid for their examinations, and all 3 of them have to get glasses. One of them has to get rather thick lens, she said. But those are things we do, and we do donate to worthy causes. One of the, in fact, I think 2 that we have donated to in the last couple of years have been to an eye prosthesis or a glass eye. One was a young lady, I think she's 13, over in Aurora, and I think another one was in Commerce City. And as they grow up, those have to be changed. So, and they don't come cheap. $975, I think, for that one in Aurora. I don't know what this other was. Hearing aids, we work with hearing aids. We pick up used eyeglasses. I picked up the whole box full up at Walmart this morning. There must have been 90 or 100 pair in there. And those are all recycled. They send them all over the world. We do that here in Aurora.
So the Lions Group really takes keen interest in helping people with disabilities, like hearing and seeing.
Yes, we do. And we've had some very good programs. That's the biggest program we ever had here, I think, was when there was a young fellow down here in Denver that blew up his mother's airplane between here and Longmont.
On purpose?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think I actually remember that.
I think he was executed. His name was Graham. But one of us, I don't know who it was, whether me or somebody else, we finagled to get the FBI director out here from the Denver area on that particular activity. And we were meeting down here at the Red Rooster on Northwestern. And I think his room maybe to, at the most, to get 90 or 100 people in there. We must have had 300 people around there to listen to that fellow that night. And that was the biggest program I think we've ever had. But yeah, that happened up here one night, and it was at nighttime, and blew up and came down in a field up here and killed everybody on board.
That's incredible.
Well, that's right, but they handled it.
Do you remember a sting operation that was going on in, I think it was in 58 or 59, maybe even been in 57? There was a series of supermarkets that were being robbed. And I don't know if this is something that was relevant to you. I think it involved the Safeway stores in the Denver area, but there was a real big investigation. You don't remember anything?
I remember something about it, but it didn't affect us out here. I was held up once in my 35 years in the grocery business. I was held up once, 2 weeks before I left the store. Got held up. Telling you. I thought that guy was going to let me have it.
Yeah. Would you say the crime in Thornton has been, was for the most part in the early days, very, non-existent, very low? Were the main problems with possibly young people being, getting into trouble? What was the lifestyle like? Was it almost a lifestyle that was free from the fear of that for a while?
I think, Rita, I'd have to put it this way. The kids in those days didn't have the opportunities to commit the crimes that they do nowadays. Just for example, spray painting. We never heard of such a thing, and I carried all kinds of spray paint in my store. But the thing that came up while I was still in the store was paint sniffing. It sniffed the gas out of these spray cans. But now they have evolved into all the activity of spray painting everybody's fence and so forth, and guns and things, these speed chases and so forth. I don't think that the kids even thought about those things in those days. But now you have the TV, and which I think definitely is a bad influence on kids who sit down there and watch whatever comes on that TV. Now, proportionally, I don't think there's probably any worse now. There's always something going on. But now,
Just on a different scale, you know.
that's right. Yeah, I think it is.
Now, were you a veteran of World War II? Were you in the service at all, or?
Yeah, I was in the service.
So, did you get the home under the GI loan program, or were you able
Yeah,
to?
our house we bought under the GI program. I went to school under the GI program. I went to school at night, and we had a VA inspector out here on these houses. As they finished them, he inspected them, and he inspected them during construction.
Now, it seems to me that was some of the problem that Sam Hoffman had, was the construction of the homes, that was kind of the beginning of some of his problems that led to his tragic death. That perhaps, I remember there was a newspaper account of roads washing out, and some people were having trouble with their foundation in the Hoffman homes area.
That's true. They had problems out here. We had problems. We have out here what they have in a lot of places called bentonite, and it expands, contracts. In fact, just here not too long ago, was down around Highlands area down in there. People were going to sue the contractor and so forth, but the bentonite is part of the elements that's in the earth, and they just didn't pay much attention to it when they built these homes. Our high school up here, when we built this new high school, I was on the school board then, we put the pylons right down to hard pan, right down, far down as we go on a hard pan there because of bentonite, and still, you can look around at the building up there and you'll see some cracks up there yet. You just can't beat it.
Speaking of the schools, do you recall there were about 3 school districts that Thornton seemed to be in the middle of. Do you remember some of the earliest schools, like the first high school, elementary, middle school, junior high?
Yeah, we didn't have a high school here to start with. In fact, we didn't have what they call a middle school now, or junior high school. We had a tar paper shack over here on right off of Eppinger, where our kids went to school, and there again, the building was built by volunteer labor, and we had, they had just consolidated some school districts up in here. Eastlake was one of them. But they had a total enrollment of 255 kids. And I remember I ran for school board, 56 or 57, against Bob Smith. He got 26 votes and I got 25. And that was the extent of our election. But as our base out here grew like it's growing now, kids were coming in, we had to build up bigger schools. And we had as total assessment at that time, even though we were a bedroom community, we had enough assessment out here that we could sell bonds and build school buildings. And we had Merritt Hutton up here for years and years, until about 4 years ago, they finally tore it down and built a new middle school. And I was appointed to the school board in 73 or 74, and I was on the board for about 10 years. And we built a number of buildings, and now I believe the enrollment is over 24,000. And it's still growing. We've got homes going up over here, and think you have a percentage of students for each home built, moved into 1.6 students, I think, something like that. So, yeah, and we have, I think, one of the best school districts in the United States. We're internationally known, and we've made a lot of progress. We have our problems, like the school districts, but I think that they're pretty well handled.
Do you remember something called a teen canteen that was run? It was kind of like an opportunity for kids to dance. It was,
Yeah, but I don't remember what it was.
well, at one time it was at in the temporary building at one of the schools. They located it there, and then there was some reference to them saving up to build for a new facility. And I was just wondering if you remember anything about that.
Not much, but I did hear of it.
I think that was something that kind of kept kids occupied, these social gatherings.
That's right.
Seems like the kids were very much involved in the pool activities, summer activities, festivals, and you read about the Festival Queen.
Yep, we did.
And I think Velma Edelman had a girl who was one of the Festival Queens one year.
Yes,
Thornton
ma'am.
Festival
Yeah,
Days.
I know her. And we had a swimming pool down here that Sam Hoffman gave us, and I think he gave it to us.
I think he deeded the land for it.
And we've got the baseball fields down there, football fields, and we use a number of the school facilities, baseball, football, and so forth. But Mapleton School District 1 up here was very active. They had a lot of students. Highland High School is called Skyview now, I think.
Yes.
And we had a good community. We had a real good community.
What do you think about Thornton today? I mean, I think this might be a note for us to.
I think one of
conclude
the, Rita, I think one of the best decisions that we made in this city was we have our own water system. And for a long time, we had our own disposal system. But as the Metro wastewater came online and built up, got better facilities and so forth, we joined up with them. But we are a completely separate water system from the urban area. And I think that only once did we have to hook onto Denver's line to buy some water from them. But I think that's one of the best things we've had. We're well organized. We have a good fire department. We have good services department, police, an excellent, very excellent school district. And we're expanding like everybody else. But I think that Thornton has got a very good future. And the direction they are going in, as far as I can see, is the right direction.
I think they're estimating the growth is going to be quite significant in the next 20 or 30 years.
When I was in the supermarket over here, we had 13 front windows, 13 big windows.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the years when I was over there, they had a supermarket institute convention in Denver. And Mr. Fisher, who was with Fisher Supermarkets back in Pennsylvania, that area back there, he had heard about my new store out here. When it was built, we were the biggest supermarket west of the Mississippi. And of course, that's way back when. So he came out to see my store, and he introduced himself, got acquainted with him, and got to talking. And he came up there, and he was looking out the front windows out there. And that time, we didn't have Merritt Hutton High School. We didn't have any of the stuff up here on the hills or any place up there. And he says, man, just look at that space out there that you've got here where they're probably going to be building up. He says, back where I am, he says, all my customers back there are all captive because they're in apartment houses. And he says, they can't go much anyplace. They want to buy groceries, they got to come down to my store. And he was really amazed at the big vacant space we had out here in front of our store. Got to see it now.
Yeah, he should really change.
Yeah.